Welcome to the connection field and the trust frequency embodied. And it's the good of the whole connection field. And I'm Connie Baxter Marlow.
And I'm Andrew Cameron Bailey.
And we are going to address our first assumption. We've written a book called The Trust Frequency, 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm. And last week, we addressed our definitions, how we use certain words in this construct that we've created on the nature of the universe. And this week, we'll do our first assumption. Andrew is going to start out with a meditation to bring our spirit and our heart into coherence. And then we're going to present our first assumption, which is for our minds, so that our minds and our hearts can come into coherence. And then Wowza, Elisa Lodge, is going to do some embodiment practice so that we can bring our minds, our hearts, and our bodies into coherence. So, shall we begin?
Shall we?
Yes.
Connie, would you put on a timer for 5 minutes?
Okay.
Can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I will get us going here. So hello, everybody. We're going to go somewhere pretty challenging with the information we'll be imparting in a few minutes here. The first assumption is radically different from the current scientific assumption about the nature of the universe. And so this meditation will take us on a little experiential journey into what it feels like to be part of a conscious, loving universe. And if you know what it feels like to be part of a mechanical universe, a giant machine that doesn't even know we exist, well, this is, you can start that.
Okay, start it now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is just my little introduction here. So this is a very different reality, and for many of us, it's the reality we already know, and all this meditation will do is remind us of something we already know deeply. And for those of us who have been living in that sort of mechanistic reality that a lot of current society exists in, this might be challenging. So we'll get to that on a sort of left brain level in a few minutes. But until then, let's simply close our eyes. Just let any air that's in your lungs, let it go, let it out. And inhale. Beautiful, deep, cleansing breath, and let it go again. And we'll do that 2 more times. Inhale. And let it go and release everything in your thoughts that has to do with anxiety or fear or uncertainty, because we are moving into the state of trust. And last in-breath. Hold it at the top. And let it go. Here we are. Listen to the silence. Feel the feeling of the air entering and leaving your lungs. And just feel the comfort, literally the comfort. It is comforting last week, our meditation had to do with, it was the day after Mother's Day, and we went on a journey back into that place all of us knew for the 9 months before we emerged into this existence. If you can remember that. This is similar to that, except that in the reality we are moving into now, it's not just the experience of being in the womb of our mother, and it's more than being in the womb of Mother Earth, which is much, much larger and more comprehensive than our personal physical mom. So let's just see how it feels to sit here in the womb of Mother Earth. And then we're going to go even beyond that. Here I sit in a place I've been ever since I came to consciousness, in the loving, supporting womb of Gaia, of Mother Earth, of Pachamama. And it's a beautiful place. It's a safe place. It's a place where all of our needs are met. It's a place that we can trust absolutely and surrender absolutely, knowing that Gaia, that Mother Earth, is holding us very much in the same way as our own physical mothers held us for 9 months as we became human beings and emerged into this beautiful and sometimes challenging world. And we're going to go into a much larger place, because Mother Earth, our little tiny planet here, if we look at the entire universe, this little planet is really a speck in a vast, vast system that we think of as universe. And what we're going to introduce today is the realization that we live in a conscious, loving universe. The conscious, loving universe, in fact, consists entirely of love. And like it or not, we are contained within the conscious, loving universe. I don't know about you, but I am unaware of any other place. There's no other place to go or to be. You might almost say there's no escape. We're within the conscious, loving universe. I almost like to think of it as being in love. Whether or not we feel from day to day that we are in love, in fact, we are in love. We are contained in the vastness of love. Love with a capital L. Love, which is the fundamental, creative, and sustaining source of all that is, of all that we experience. So let's sit here with a little smile in the corners of our mouths, knowing that we have always been in this place of beauty, in this place of safety, this place where we are nurtured, where all of our needs are met before we even know we need them. It's an extraordinarily beautiful state of being to know that we are in love, that we are held and nurtured by the conscious, loving universe. And when you're ready, come gently back into your body, into the room or the place you are sitting in, and open your eyes and say hello to our friends who are gathered here today. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Andrew. Let's take a minute and just process that. And then we're now going to move from our heart, take that long journey. Many say that long journey from the heart to the head, from the head to the heart. And we want to shorten that journey so that the head, the mind, our worldview allows us to act in alignment with our heart. And we will be taking you through our first assumption of our 10 assumptions. And Wowza, Elisa Lodge, who has joined us, will be taking you through an embodiment process to embody this conscious, loving nature of the universe. So I wanted to just have a little PowerPoint here that shows us the first assumption, which is that we live in a conscious, loving universe. There is only love. So
understand that these 10 assumptions are actually an alternative reality. We worked long and hard. Took us about 5 years to write the book, right? And we've done a lot of workshops and other investigations. And this is not what we were taught about the nature of the universe. Or I grew up in the science paradigm, and I was not told that we live in a conscious, loving universe. In fact, I was told that we lived in a mechanical universe, a universe where that simply, firstly, it wasn't even alive. It didn't know we existed. And to say that it loves us is an absurdity. And yet, this is in fact the reality that every indigenous person on this planet has known for hundreds or even, well, certainly thousands of years, and very possibly hundreds of thousands of years. It's an extraordinary change from what most of us were raised to believe. The same message comes to us from the ancient rishis, those back in India, back 5,000 and 6,000 years ago. The knowing that we live in a conscious, loving universe. In fact, the universe is alive. It's a biological reality that we live in, an evolving, growing biological reality of which we are a part. And there's no other place to be, so we might as well get used to it. And I find the more I get used to it, the more amazing life becomes.
Yes, exactly. And what we come to understand is, so many say God is love, and that God is everything. Well, if we take those two statements, we have to see that everything is love. And if we can take that as absolutely true, which is really hard to do in these times, because we've been taught that there's right and wrong, good and evil, victim and perpetrator. And what this assumption does is it goes beyond that paradox. And our next assumption will resolve that paradox. But if right now one can go to, there is only love. Absolutely. And what does that do to one's heart? Does that open one's heart to saying, what? I'm part of this loving universe. Am I love? Is everything that's happened to me, is it love? How could that be? Well, if you remember our definition of humanity, as we've defined humanity, it is a collection of divine, autonomous, sovereign beings who have chosen to incarnate on earth on the soul's journey to wholeness with a gift and a purpose. So this definition of humanity says we chose to come on a journey to wholeness. So we gave permission to this conscious, loving universe to take us on our journey to wholeness, our journey to self-love and self-acceptance. And we promised to bring a gift to the party. And the whole universe is awaiting that gift that we promised to bring, which is us, all of us. And our journey to wholeness is the journey to self-love. So without loving all of ourselves, how can we bring that gift truly forward that is us? If we see ourselves as victims, do we see ourselves as deserving that victim, those perpetrators that victimized us because we're not good enough? Well, in the loving universe where there's only love, those perpetrators actually were obliging our soul so that we could come to love all of ourselves. It's very radical. It's a very big leap for us to go basically beyond right and wrong, good and evil, victim, perpetrator. It's huge. But until we do, we're stuck in a lower frequency. And the earth is moving into a higher frequency. We have work to do to keep up with her. We have to go beyond our denial that we've put in place to defend ourselves and our defensive mechanisms that we use to protect ourselves from anybody ever seeing where we don't love ourselves. So this is huge. And we have a course online on socialchrysalis.com. It's called The Dance of Souls, to address this, because we do have such strong, powerful, deep work to do to keep up with Mother Earth as she moves into this frequency. And as this pandemic brings us home to ourselves, home to those places we love and the places we don't love. So let's do our work so that we can contribute to the collective and help all of humanity move to that higher place that we're being called to. So, what do you think of that?
Well, you know what I think of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would like perhaps to close this section by talking about two things, one from the realm of spirituality and one from the realm of science. And I think I can show how they not only interact and overlap, but how they're actually the same thing seen from different perspectives and expressed in different words. So we're talking about the fact, the reality that we live in, we are part of, we have our being in a conscious, loving universe. And you've probably heard of Sufism, the Sufis. The most famous Sufi on planet Earth today is also the most famous poet. His name is Jalaluddin Rumi, or simply known as Rumi. And what's that wonderful quote of his?
So he has that great quote, which is, and I'll read it actually because I want to get it really right. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. And then he has another sentence that's so important. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about because it's beyond anything we can fathom. It's a higher frequency.
So that is a beautiful and rather well-known rendering of what I'm talking about. And what I'm going to talk about is actually the essence of Sufism. And I can express that very, very swiftly. So most people have heard of Sufis. They're from the Middle East. They're the loving, beautiful heart of Islam, in fact. And there's an expression in the Arabic language, and it is this: La ilaha illallah. And what that means is there is no God but God. There is no God. In other words, nothing is real. There's only one reality, and that reality is the real with a capital R. We could think of that as God. We could think of that as a conscious, loving universe. There is, in fact, nothing else, nothing other than that reality. So the Sufi practice is to erase or eliminate all of the illusions that we have somehow managed to construct throughout the eons of human history. We've got all these delusions about reality, and science has contributed to those delusions. Standard disconnected science, this world we live in, has a lot to answer for. It's given us a whole lot, and it's taken a whole lot away from us. It's taken away the unity that is now returning to science. There's a whole new field called unified physics, and we can actually show that unified physics and Sufism are talking about the same thing. There is nothing but God, is one way to say it. There's nothing but the universe, is another way of saying it. There's nothing but love. As long as we understand what we mean by love, and by love, I'm not talking about the feelings I have for this beautiful lady next to me. I'm not talking about how I feel about my grandchildren. I'm not talking about that kind of love. I'm talking about love with a capital L. Love that is actually a quantum science. You could think of it as a subatomic energy. It's that which creates and holds everything together. That is the love that contains us. And that is a scientific concept, and it's a spiritual concept.
So, is it time for Wowza now?
Might be time for Wowza.
Wowza's here. Yes, yes, yes.
So let me jump out of this mode.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hold on, we're gonna
hold on a second, darling.
We can hear you, and we're gonna see you in a second.
You should be coming up here very shortly.
Let's see, where's Wowza? Wowza, Wowza, where art thou?
Wow.
There you are.
There you are.
There
Hey,
you are,
Wowza.
beautiful Wowza. So let's spotlight her.
How do we spotlight?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear
There
you.
you are.
Can, oh great.
We hear you and we see you.
Oh, great.
Welcome, beautiful being.
Are you in Los Angeles?
I'm in Marina Del Rey. Uh-oh, we're not connected vocally.
That's okay.
If there's a
It's
delay,
okay.
don't worry about it,
Yeah,
right?
don't worry.
Yeah,
about it.
right. Whoa, it's really off. Woo.
Uh-huh. Oh, dear. That's okay. People are.
All right.
There you go.
Well, Andrew and Connie, everything you've been saying about this extraordinary, conscious, loving universe, and that everything is God. This extraordinary vehicle we've been given, called a body, is love, is a conscious, loving inner universe. And I really came to many of these new laws through learning in the deepest way possible about how this body works. And in all the years I've been teaching, I feel with so many people, the body has been almost an enemy. You know, the complaints, the almost beating it up. It's too big. My breasts are too small. My this is too this. As we all know, how much negative direction has been placed on this body. So it's time to realize that we are living in a conscious, loving body, and that we are universal loving beings that have come forth now in all our glory, in all our hard work and experience. In a sense, we're, being forerunners to take a stand and saying that the more we realize that these assumptions are true, our body will shine in the lightning and roar in the thunder. It thrives on this information. Not long ago, I was working in China and picked up something and had inflammation and, all the doctors and all the rest of it, and the medicines. And this one day, it was like I was hit on the head, and it was this, take your own medicine. And I remember quite honestly getting on this ball and starting to bounce, getting the energy moving, feeling like I was riding on the universe itself, and pouring in life forth, with all the loving muster I could get hold of, and just spreading it through this body. And within a week, the inflammation was gone. And this has happened over and over again, and with so many people I've worked with. Our body responds to the loving grace of the truth, that it is indeed totally connected to all, to the God force in everything. So just to begin, I always like to first, it's so interesting in these little boxes, and there you are, Connie and Andrew. So I even though I can't quite see your eyes very clearly, it's so beautiful to just be willing to gaze as a focus in your eyes. And then very slowly opening up peripheral vision. And it's nice to even take our hands and just slowly open. See, right now, I'm seeing the computer. Now I'm seeing the edges of the computer. I'm seeing the furniture and the wall now. I'm actually, even without looking, have a sense of the ceiling and the floor. And as we're opening and spreading out our vision of wholeness, at the same time, we can focus and diffuse. Now, as we bring our hands in, I'm also asking you to really make this adjustment between these worlds of separation and unity, making the life force, the spirit of life itself, the prime mover. And so as we spread out our arms again, our hands, into that unified field, I'll see you there, to audibly breathe, if you're willing, this on the inhale. It's almost like a kid seeing a Christmas tree for the first time, you know, it's like, oh, oh, and then bringing that unified field into a unity of being that is right here in our hearts. So that simple practice, walking down a street, going into the market, of just expanding vision, of inclusivity. Inclusivity. Oh, there's nowhere I am not. The God force is everywhere present. And I can bring that home into my heart. And for the next, I like addressing body parts as members of the same team. The same team. And hello, head. I know you've been working overtime. The overwhelm is pretty great. And just this idea of how would you like to express yourself now? How would you like to move? And, you know, it could just be a little shake. It could be just of a sincere welcoming. Of that, we're not going to throw you out with that bath water. We need you on the ride here. But we're going to balance you with the rest of this unified field. So you don't have to worry us to death. There's more instinctual intelligence deeper down in the belt that is really great at that. So let's just play a little bit with the shoulders. Oh my goodness, the weight of our shoulders at this time, right? And just to see it, you could be doing it almost in a boring meeting where suddenly you're feeling the weight of the world, you know, the responsibilities just weighting you down. Sure enough, your shoulders are going to be hanging. And just that little bit, you know, just a little bit of shake and opening, high shoulders. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for me. You're an important part of the team. And elbows, and I'm going to go a little faster here, but you know, sometimes we can glue those elbows in like crazy. And, you know, to let them express, oh, you need a little more space. It's a little cramped in here. Well, let's just open that space up. Oh, yeah, a little more easy breathing. And the heart. And just that, I'll never forget, Katharine Hepburn once on the stage, I'll never forget it. Someone asked her, well, how do you create this extraordinary radiance? And she said, I imagine a freshly cut basket of flowers in my heart. And when I come out, I just throw them out to the world. All we could do is just such a lovely image of just throwing a rose, throwing a lily, throwing just some beautiful, beautiful buds that are just now opening and radiating their divine fullness. And then I'd really like you to go just in the tailbone, this whole gut level instinctual intelligence we have, our ecology of being, to really embrace the earthiness of our body, being one and the same as this vegetation, this earth-based expression growing us and uplifting us with nurturing, soulful energy now. And then that spreading out through the solar plexus now, that we have a sun-filled core that radiates light, luminous light now out, that we don't end with the skin. No, just skin encapsulated ego here, but the fullness and the radiance of all that we are. Now, if we have just a moment more, do I have a moment more?
A moment.
Oh, just a moment. Okay, I'll leave the longer piece for next time.
Right.
But I just want to honor the elements for a moment, that we again can just lift our hearts and our eyes up to the sky, taking the lids, any extra lids off, that keeps us pressured down. And the sky of our mind, the one mind, let us call in now. And this solar plexus, a fire that gives us the passion to move through hell in high water. See, we just, see, just, see that we can bust through our own ruts of thinking and then come down into this earth-based, beautiful, beautiful common ground of being with and we have an yes, we can do this. We can come together now in our wholeness, into the core, into the soul connection with all of life as one body. Here, here, for the one body.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. That's so
What a gift.
enlivening.
you. What a gift you are to this process, to bring it into the body is so important. The mind, the spirit, the heart,
The
the body.
embodiment aspect. So we are finally embodying the trust frequency. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
My
So,
pleasure.
let's see
So we've
where-
just got about 5 minutes left, if I'm not mistaken.
So we have just a few minutes, and we're going to hand this over to John Brockett for
I see John has joined us.
the men, and
who else is here?
we've got a man who's probably come on for the men's. Next is the men get to come forth. Maybe Andrew will bring a little to the men of this embodiment.
I've been sitting with John in this group actually after this. I'm not sure if I'll do it today, but I may.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thanks, Wowza. Thank you, everybody. This has been just beautiful. It's a real honor and privilege to have the opportunity to do this. What platform are we on here? The good of the whole?
Good of the whole connection field. And you go to goodofthewhole.org to sign up for the weekly digest, so one can find out all of the amazing things that are going on almost 24/7 during this pandemic time. As such a heart-centered connection field, it's truly bringing us together on a heart level with extraordinary people offering their gifts, and just a time in the connection field to come in and share who we are, what we see, what we know, what we feel, with indigenous peoples of the world and other presenters and people sharing. So it's not presentation based at all, it's sharing based. And so next week we will address our second assumption, which resolves the paradox that the idea that there is only love brings up. Because what about those things we see as not love, that we experience as not love? That how could those things, those radical things of, I don't even want to bring them into the field, but just think of the things we think of as not love. And know that ultimately there's only love. It's all there ever has been, it's all there ever will be. And the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth is what we are charged to do, to bring forth a higher frequency that the earth is moving into. And in this higher frequency, there's more abundance than we can fathom, so nothing to fight over. That's how we're going to get there. We love you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
Thank you. Now we're going to transition over to John Brockett. And what's the name of your group?
My hour is called Men in Connection.
Men in Connection.
But first of all, I just want to say I just tuned in for the last 5 minutes, and it's so beautiful. Everything that you said is in resonance with the resonant field. And Wowza, beautiful to see you. Haven't seen you for a while, so thank you all very much for your presentation, your hour of holding this space for the connection field. And if I get a chance, I'm going to try to tie in a little bit earlier next time, so I can. So I can hear all the beautiful things that you're bringing.
And we're recording it, so it'll be available. We're making them all available because
good.
we feed on each other.
Okay, very good.
We did our
And I'm
definitions last week.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
getting a new computer Wednesday, and hopefully this timing will be a little better.
Okay, there was a delay there.